Garden Report is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. Celtics practicing again as training camp continues here on Friday. Noah Dalzell here from You Got Boston and SB Nation. And Jaylen Brown, year 9, I think, at this point for him. Coming in, looking stronger, bigger, put on more weight, more muscle. Almost looks like a power forward out there physically. His arms, his shoulders, all of that bulked up, even beyond what we saw last year. And he mentioned to us today that he put on some weight going into last year and liked how it went for him. Here's him discussing deciding to put on more this year.
Yeah, I think just the duration of the season. I put on some muscle coming back last year, and it paid off for me, like just by being healthier, not too many injuries, by protecting my ligaments and my joints, and then just having an extra gear when it came to the playoffs. I was able to still, I played 70 games, picked up guys full court, played both sides of the ball with intensity, and maintained it all the way through the playoffs, all the way through the finals. So I like that feeling, so I just added to it, and I did more to kind of just get myself in even better shape so I can be prepared for another late postseason run.
So I like it. I think it points toward him being more of a finisher again this year, a guy who plays around the basket, a guy who catches passes, finishes through centers, all that different kind of stuff. And I think that's what put him in position to have the success, the efficiency that he had last year, as well as the clarity on his role. Remember a year ago, we're saying, how does Jaylen fit in all of this? We didn't know.
I wasn't saying that. No, but I know that was a big discourse point around like all the talent on this team. And he did seem like he was going to be the odd one out for a lot of people, especially after that tough opener. But I think the thing with Jaylen is the last thing I would have thought going into the offseason is that he needed to put on more weight. Like I feel like his thing is kind of just his build and how strong he was and how good he was through contact. But he talked about it today. He said, I'm obsessed. Like I asked him about, how he managed to travel the world. I feel like literally every single week we were seeing on Instagram or on social media that he was in a different country, meeting a different prominent person, fashion shows, ESPYs, all that. And he said like he has a really strict regimen where he has it all scheduled out. He has a whole team that's helping him. And I don't think he took any rest really this summer. It sounded like he was just from the jump really working on getting better in every way. And he talked about just like how driven he is to getting better. And I think I feel like every training camp there's like the one guy that makes headlines for just looking a lot stronger, and he's definitely made that headline for this training camp from the beginning. It was very obvious to anybody that's been covering this team and been around him that was a priority for him, and I think it reflects everything that we've heard him say, that he's in the best shape of his career, that he's as driven as he's ever been, and I think we're going to see another really good season from him.
He's pretty central too to one of the bigger questions I have going in this year, hangover versus bump. What are you going to see? Which directions are going to stem from the championship? And the things he did well last year all required so much focus, cutting the turnovers down, the defense he played. He took another level on that end after a couple of weird years where he didn't have the same impact that we saw in early portions of his career. So those are going to require an enormous continued focus. Free throws, that's the one thing you look at too, where he needs to get much better. I think he was 66% in the playoffs. So those are the three things I'm looking at with him. If he does those as well or better than last year, he's in a great position. And they got to promote him, prioritize him, I feel like, because one thing that made the dynamic between he and Tatum work so well last year is I think Tatum took a little bit of a step back and Brown took a little bit of a step forward in terms of how involved they were and how active they were in the offense. And some of that was Tatum setting up Brown directly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we saw it more in the playoffs. Even in the finals, I think there were some moments where, like, I haven't seen this kind of playmaking between them to this extent. And it looks great, and it's obviously really difficult to guard. I think the one place where I feel like he could be more involved is in late game situations. And in the playoffs, he had so many.
Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, he had so many big moments. He had the corner three. He had that, Game 3 in the finals when they were about to blow that massive lead. He hits the pull-up. Like, I think he had some trademark moments in the postseason. And during the regular season, we were still seeing that it was, the late game situations were not very much diversified. I wonder how much that's going to carry over into next season. Like the fact that he's now established himself. Not that there wasn't trust in him before, but how could you not consider giving him the last shots from time and time again? With Tatum getting that sometimes as well. So that's one area that I bet they'll kind of work him in a little bit more.
I wonder the perception of him coming off Finals MVP, East Finals MVP. Does he get back in that All-NBA mix again this year? Because he just missed it.
Yeah.
Devin Booker going in in that third team spot. Will he return to that spot? Will he have higher statistical output? I think he's one of the more interesting guys in terms of all that stuff on this roster, because we know what Tatum's going to be.
Yeah, and honestly, I think so often the awards are kind of like to reflect last year's postseason. You know, like Jokic getting MVP this season for the previous year's championship. I think Jaylen Brown, if he has the exact same year or even a little bit less good of a year as he had last year, he'd probably make All-NBA, because the people that didn't vote for him and then saw him become Finals MVP would probably be compensating for that a little bit. So I think he's due for another really good season. It's just a question of, you know, one thing that I've been thinking about is whether he ever is going to get the best defender on the other team on him, because it's typically always Tatum, you know, and he's had some really big offensive performances where you're watching who's guarding Tatum and he has a far inferior defender on him. And so it's something that I've wondered, like, I wonder if at certain points, you know, if he's playing really well as he did in the playoffs last year, like, does that change too, where you now have, because I do think Tatum with not the best defender on him is going to be unleashed to another level too.
Yeah, and they could use that as an opportunity to free Tatum. We've talked about how difficult it's been on Tatum. So when you see it in the efficiency in the playoffs and in his three-point shot, could use Brown to draw defenders away from Tatum. It's definitely a possibility, and we'll get a look at it. Brown said he wants to play in Abu Dhabi next week, and I think that's still up in the air how many of the Celtics starters and regular contributors will play out there. But Brown wants to. He's got a lot of friends out there in that part of the world and has been over there quite a bit himself. So he intends to play, if he can, in that Abu Dhabi series against the Nuggets, which gets going 1 week from today against the Nuggets. We'll have one more practice here at Auerbach Center before the Celtics head to the Middle East, and we'll have it covered here on Celtics All Access and CLNS Media. We are powered by Game Time. Go there, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Use code CLNS at Prize Picks for a bonus this weekend, going into a bunch of great football games across all the different levels. She's Noah Dalzell. I'm Bowie Manning. This has been a practice edition of the Garden Report. Hey, Bowie Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS